Thank you very much, Father Jim. Someone was telling me, actually I'll name him, Cliff Argue, who has served on the Archdiocesan Council for many years and was the president of the OCMC board. He would tell people in New York that there is orthodoxy west of the Hudson River. And now you've come to see it. His Eminence is not here, so that gives me permission to say a few things regarding last night. I think it's really important for us to realize that when we first gave the date of this conference, he was going to be unable to be here because this is his year to go every month to Constantinople and to sit on the synod. And as the time came nearer and nearer, because missions and evangelism is so heavy and burning in his heart, he actually canceled his trip, told his All Holiness, I have to be here. And last night you saw that he prepared himself, took it very seriously in his busy schedule. He wrote out a prayer. He wrote out remarks. And he came, and he will be here this morning and all day. And he wouldn't want me to say this, but I just want us not to take that for granted, that we have a metropolitan who is the point of this and takes the lead. And Father Jim said that one of the goals of this conference, and one of the reasons why we tried so hard, and thank you, Tomei, and Father Jim, for all your efforts, to get representatives from every metropolis to come, is because we really want you, in your own metropolises, to have a standing, active ministry of missions and evangelism that is a central part of your metropolis ministry, to help and support and hold accountable and be a machine of changing the mindset in our archdiocese and in our metropolises, and most importantly, at the ground level in our parishes. And the first part of my talk this morning is going to be about the ministry of Come. And the ministry of Come fits the metropolis of San Francisco, but some of the principles that I'll talk about can be tailored to fit the personality of your metropolises. So I hope you don't come here just personally or for the sake of your parish, but I hope you go back and you become an instrument and a voice of what you heard here and really put the pressure, the holy and blessed pressure, on your metropolitans or the archbishop, if you're in the archdiocesan district, to start a metropolis ministry, because the parishes need that. All of us need that accountability. I want to also thank you, Your Grace, for chanting that beautiful hymn. I don't know if you caught it, but it was Prostasia, or a protection of Christians unshameable, and that is the kondakion of all the feasts of the Theotokos, and we ask for her intercessions, because her chief role is to intercede for us, and to guide us, and to protect us, and to help us to spread this good news so that all people can come to worship her Son. So what an appropriate opening prayer for this second day of the conference. Thank you. So I want to give you just a brief history of Come, Commission for Orthodox Missions and Evangelism. It actually started in 1991, some 25 years ago, and it started after an effort in the Bay Area called Walk for Russia. And it was a huge walkathon to raise money as the Soviet Union was coming and falling to the wayside. And all of the areas of the former Soviet Union were coming back to life, and the church was being reborn. And His Eminence, Metropolitan Anthony of blessed memory, had a real love for the Church of Russia. And he actually connected with a bishop in the Ukraine, and we organized in the Bay Area this walk, and it was such a success. And we collected all kinds of money, and he went over there and gave that money to this bishop to help them to give rebirth to this beautiful and ancient church. And when he came back, he was so enthusiastic. If you knew Metropolitan Anthony, he was a very spontaneous man. And when he got enthusiastic about something, then he translated that into action. And he said, we need to establish a ministry here that does the same thing in revitalizing our own metropolis. And so Come was born. And Portland's own Catherine Lingus became the very first president, and she served for many years as the president of this beautiful ministry. And she finally, because of illness, had to resign. And she's struggling now with Alzheimer's. And I just want to pause for a second. And I want us to bow our heads and just pray silently for her, because I can't tell you what a visionary woman and committed Orthodox Christian that she is, and what an impact that she has had on the Archdiocese and on this metropolis. So let's bow our heads for just a moment. So, from the beginning, Catherine was the president, but there's always been a metropolitan at the head of this ministry. We never did anything without either Metropolitan Anthony or now Metropolitan Gerasimos' influence and vision. And we've had board members from across the metropolis, clergy and laity. We have several board members right now here at this beautiful conference. And we're glad that you're here, and we're glad for your help. So the main thing that took place under Metropolitan Gerasimos was the planting of 23 parishes in 25 years. God's providence allowed for him to come into the metropolis at a time when it was experiencing amazing growth. And so you can see over here on the map all the different areas in this large metropolis that were affected. One thing that isn't shown here is Alaska up here. And Hawaii, which would be over here. But you can see it there. And I have to tell you that we do have representatives today from Hawaii and from Alaska. So not only is every metropolis represented, but we have people from Canada, Romania, Alaska, Hawaii, and the Bahamas. So quite a representation, quite a number of ambassadors to go back to your own regions and really be the leaven that leavens the whole lump. Under His Eminence Metropolitan Gerasimos from 2005 forward, the emphasis changed. No longer was the main emphasis to go and plant new parishes or to respond to existing populations of under or not served Orthodox, but it was to really begin to strengthen and mentor these mission parishes that had started, and to really try to think outside the box and find ways for these parishes that were in small towns and rural areas to become full-time Eucharistic parishes. And this effort is still underway. This is a change that we want to spark, but it's a change that's going to take more than the metropolis of San Francisco to come up with the solution. Because at this point in time, we need the synod, and even the patriarchate, and the seminary, and all of our metropolitans to really come up with the blessing for us to raise up true apostolic missionaries who can go into small towns and rural areas where a parish cannot support them, where they're in a catch-22. Without a full-time priest, without being a full-time Eucharistic community, that parish will not grow. But if they don't grow, they can't support a priest. And so we need to send people in there who can make tents, who can be, I'm using that because of St. Paul, who can be IT people, who have lay vocations, or who their spouses can help support them, and go into those parishes as true missionaries, not burdening the parish, but growing it until we can wean them off of their own support and be able to truly be a Eucharistic community that then is able to grow from the indigenous population around them. But we're not there yet, and we need to get there, because it's not just our metropolis that has this challenge. It's all of your metropolises. It's Kenya that has this same challenge. So under his ministry, we have started 2 new mission parishes. Holy Cross in Roseburg, which we didn't start ourselves. It was actually being served by the OCA, but they became unable to serve it, and so they asked that we take it under our Ormoforion, under His Eminence Metropolitan Gerasimos, which we have done. And then also in Arizona, the mission of Lake Havasu City, which had an already existing population of Orthodox. Under Metropolitan Gerasimos, the metropolis underwent a strategic plan in 2013. And this really helped come a vision from that point forward into the future. And we came up with 3 main strategic objectives for the ministry of Come. One was to establish a mission and evangelism ministry, or to capture in an existing parish that ministry that already exists that focuses on that area of parish life in every single parish in the metropolis. For the same reason that I'm challenging you to go back to your metropolises and help be the catalyst to start metropolis missions and evangelism ministries, every parish needs to focus on this. And the reason I say this, well, the reason a ministry is so important in the parish is because the parish priest, who is really the gatekeeper of that parish, this may not be where he is at this given point in time. And if we have a ministry that's there to help him, to help the parish council, to keep this in front of the community, to be a catalyst to change their mindset and to help to educate them, connect them with what's going on at the metropolis and the archdiocese in this way, so that they can literally turn themselves inside out and become a parish that's growing and reaching out. That's what we want. And Tomaida, who is the full-time assistant director, this is her main ministry, to really work on this strategic objective in the life of the parish. And I want you just for a second, if you have your notebooks, to turn back to that section 8. Because in that section is a sample of some of the materials that she has been working on with the board to help missions and evangelism ministries in the parish. There's a large section here on starting a bookstore. Lots of beautiful, beautiful aids for people to start a bookstore, because a bookstore is central to educating your own people, to have resources for your family in the home so that the home can be a home church and an extension and parallel life to the church. And it's extremely important when you have inquirers and catechumens coming into the life of your parish, people off the streets. So it's very important. Look through that. Also, you can see at the end of the Logos bookstore helps, she has an insert in there called Missions and Evangelism Ministry. And this is a template of what we're trying to do in every parish of our metropolis, to help them with a welcome ministry, an actual ministry that's a subsection of the missions and evangelism ministry that greets that person at the front door, takes them all the way through the service, all the way into the fellowship hall, and follows up with them afterwards, so that they not only feel like they're welcomed and that they are invited to be a part of what is taking place, but that we assist them during the service. Because for most people coming off the street, even though they've been exposed through the internet and may have heard hundreds of podcasts about orthodoxy, they get blown away when they come to that first service. It is such a different reality for them. They have no idea what to do, what not to do. They see all the people around them doing these things that seem foreign and formulaic, and we need to connect them to somebody in the parish who gets that and that can help them through that service. And then all the way through the fellowship hall and follow up afterwards. So welcome ministry. The missions and evangelism ministry needs to reach into the parish. Because if we don't grow in our faith, we have nothing to share with anybody. And so holding the parish accountable to in-reach is one of the functions of a ministry, missions and evangelism ministry. Increasing the parish visibility. Our main income source as a metropolis is Mochas for Missions. It's a grassroots fundraising and educational campaign in every parish during a certain season, from, let's say, Great Lent until Pentecost in the parish, where we have a chance to give them materials to raise mission-mindedness awareness and for them to raise money for this ministry so that it can go and do its work throughout the year. Bookstore, outreach events, and also, as Father Luke so beautifully said, when we participate in global ministry, it definitely helps our local ministry of outreach. It changes our mentality, and so we try to partner with OCMC and have in every parish an OCMC ambassador who can connect the parish to what's going on globally in missions. And then there's other materials that you can see that we've developed. There's a sample chairperson job description of the person in the parish who would be the Missions and Evangelism Ministry chair. There's information here about welcome packets. We're not trying to control what you do, but to get best practices so that you understand what would be included in a welcome packet. We talk about the importance of testimonies and sharing your journey. We talk about visibility, physical visibility. What are your signs? What are banners? What kind of banners can you use? Then we also talk about digital visibility. So there's a whole checklist on a website and what makes it a good website that the American people are going to be able to go there and feel like this is an alive source of information. It's up to date. It's user-friendly. It's mobile. It gives me the ability to connect to other sources and links. So that's very important. And I won't, there's even information here about a festival outreach. As Father Luke said last night, festivals are good. Where else are you going to have thousands and thousands of people coming into your parish, being exposed to your community, where you have the opportunity to turn that event not only into a fundraiser, but an evangelical event, and connect them to orthodoxy and to transform lives, your lives. So very important. So that's one of the strategic objectives. Another strategic objective is to go and help parishes that are struggling, to mentor them, to mentor the priests, to go and assess their parish and help them to understand where their weaknesses are in terms of things that are obstacles and impediments to their growth, and to work with them so that they can be healthy, thriving, and growing. This can be a parish that's large. It can be a parish that's small. It can be a parish with a priest. It can be a parish without a priest. And then the third and the final objective is to now look at urban areas, metropolitan areas that are growing, and the West Coast is growing, and to strategically plant parishes where they are needed. And this is the third strategic objective. We're not trying to do this in small towns and rural areas because we really need, as I said earlier, to find the solution to bring in true missionary priests to go in there and serve those parishes. But in urban areas, you can plant a new parish, and very soon it can become a full-fledged Eucharistic community and grow orthodoxy. And I'll talk more about that later. When you strategically, as a metropolis, look at a given area and you see, on the one hand, growth in population, and on the other hand, you see that your parishes in that given locale are not appreciably growing, but the city is underserved in regard to orthodoxy, and you want to plant a new parish, this is just like it was in the book of Acts. It's the apostolic model. And this is exactly what we want to do in the metropolis of San Francisco. And this particular parish of St. John the Baptist was the first effort in that way, where it wasn't a split. It wasn't an effort to serve an already existing population. It was a strategic effort to go into a city that had grown, that was underserved, and to plant a parish. And so in 1996, the Ministry of Come identified Portland as the first. And in 1997, they established a steering committee of 6 people who came from Holy Trinity. Father Jim Ratellis, I recognize you right now because you were the proistamenos at that time and also a member of the COM board and very, very supportive, and we thank you for that. And so I was, with my family, assigned with 6 families, and my parents said, so how's it going? And it was an interesting time. I said, it's going great. We have no members. And we have nowhere to meet, and we're arriving in Portland, and we will see what the Lord leads us to do. So it was a very interesting time. During the first days, we had about $30,000 of seed money that was raised from a couple different people. We never, ever spent that money. The initial families were such faithful stewards that they were able to support us 100% by their stewardship. From the very beginning, we started meeting in a parishioner's home. And I don't know if they're here, but I just want to recognize Barry and Agapi Katrinos, who I know have been working really hard in volunteering for this. But they volunteered their house. They had a nice dining room that became the church. When we did liturgies, we would use their kitchen counter as the prothesis. And after we took everything down, then it would return to a dining room, and we would have a meal together. But it was very important that we had a place to meet on Saturdays for Vespers and during the week for feast days. We always rented a space for Sunday service, but we did not want to be a Sunday-only beginning. So during the first 3 years, we had temporary spaces. We started in a conference center. We quickly moved to the cafeteria of a private school, and as I said, we used a parishioner's home. We were called Parish in a station wagon and in a trunk because we were taking down and setting up. After that, in 1999, we actually found the basement of a strip mall. It was underneath a bar and across the street from a strip joint. Vigils were great because we could totally control our own lighting. Since we were in a basement, we had absolutely no windows. But we took that 10,000 square feet and we totally remodeled it to fit our needs. And from that point on, we had a permanent bookstore, and we didn't have to take down and set up. And it's interesting that you would think that visibility is really important, and it is. But God provided, because underneath that bar and across the street from the strip joint, we quickly outgrew that space, even though it was underground. We called it the catacomb church. Then one of the parishioners drove by, and they saw this site with a for lease sign on it. And we came and checked it out. It's nearly a 2-acre site. It has 21,000 square feet. And we basically totally stripped it and started with just the main walls, even tearing down some walls, even taking down some beams so that we would have beautiful gates for the altar, and did some engineering. There was a house in the parking lot. This was 2 lots, and so we had that torn down, and we had to completely redo the parking lot. But thank God it's served us, and as Father Jim says, we've now outgrown it. It's interesting that during our time here, we now have 2 priests, a parish administrator, a music director. We're nearly 150 families, and in 2017, we will be proposing over a $500,000 operating budget funded 100% by stewardship. Our next step is going to be obviously to buy other land and to build the necessary facilities until the second coming. One of the things that makes it a challenge here in Portland is that there is an urban growth boundary around this city that is government controlled, and so it creates incredibly high density and very scarce available land. And so we do really well in stewardship, but we're praying and searching for benefactors. So we do well on the day-to-day and the month-to-month, but it's going to take some big grace for us to take the next step. So what I want to do now, and I've shared with a couple people, is talk about 5 principles that we founded this parish based on and that we feel has really led to our growth and our success that can be taken by you in some way or another and hopefully benefited from. And I shared with the couple people this morning that this is the very first time that I've ever talked about St. John the Baptist to anybody outside of St. John the Baptist. I've always been very, very hesitant to do that. And I want to say that we do not take credit for any success or any fruit that this parish has experienced. We give it all to God and His grace. It's like when you read the book of Acts, you see the Holy Spirit working in very powerful ways. And you say, why doesn't He work that way in the same way here today? And He does, but I would say that sometimes the Holy Spirit does some incredible things because the people can't do it, and He has to do it for us. And that's very true of St. John the Baptist. So I actually hardly ever speak from a script. But because I'm nervous about talking about St. John the Baptist, I've actually written this all out. I hope it doesn't bore you. So principle number 1. At the center of St. John the Baptist from day 1, we wanted to place the Eucharist, the sacramental life, and the liturgical life at the very heart. This is one of the reasons why we procured the Catrinos home, so that we, from the very beginning, would not be a Sunday-only church, that the heart and the soul of Orthodoxy is its sacramental and liturgical life, and at the very center of that is the Eucharist. Everything feeds into it, and everything that we do that is good and God-pleasing feeds out of it. And we know that everything positive in the life of this parish has happened because we have focused on the spiritual health of the membership. To be a Eucharistic parish means that the worship life of the church is at the center of the life of the members. It means being aware that everything that we have and everything that we are comes from God, and that we exercise our royal priesthood in giving back and thanksgiving. This is our offering, and the altar is our own heart and God's world. And there are ordained priests, but all of us, by virtue of our baptism and chrismation, are part of the royal priesthood. And this is Eucharistic living expressed in everyday life. The late Father Alexander Schmemann, he expressed this Eucharistic life when he said that our life should be lived suspended between 2 Eucharists. We live a life of preparation going into the Divine Liturgy. The totality of our life is preparing us for going before the altar and receiving these holy gifts. That's the fulfillment. We come out of the liturgy with a profound sense of gratitude and thanksgiving. And immediately, we begin the cycle over again. Preparation, fulfillment, gratitude. Preparation, fulfillment, gratitude. When we are living this Eucharistic life, we are beginning to receive the grace of God, and it is transformative. So all of our life has to be permeated with this sense of preparation, prayer. Not just prayer, prayerfulness. Fasting, not just dietarily, but with our thoughts, with our senses. Being critical consumers of everything that is out there and around us. Seeing the created essence of things, as St. Maximus the Confessor says, so that we know the purpose of these things and can enter into them as a means towards our communion and union with God. This is a part of the fast and a part of the celebratory life of the church. We, from the very beginning, because we were small, because the parishioner to priest ratio was so conducive, we made a huge emphasis on making available the sacrament of confession to our people on a regular basis. I cannot tell you how profound that has been in the life of our church, because it's been profound in the life of our church members. When they can unburden themselves on a regular basis, when they can be on the top of their spiritual life, when they can be held accountable, a heartfelt, contrite confession is worth 1,000 fantastic sermons. It's life-changing. Unfortunately, so many of our parishes are so large, the parishioner to priest ratio is so great, that we can't truly make that available to our parishioners on a regular basis. And it contributes to the spiritual unhealth of not only our individual persons in the parish, our metropolises, our archdiocese, and our church in general. Practically speaking, this Eucharistic way of life should be expressed in our church attendance, our participation in the services, the way we prepare, whether we come on time because of what we value and how much we value the sacramental and liturgical life, knowing how to participate in the services, and because we participate in the services, connecting to God in a profound way that changes us and that becomes contagious. Archbishop Demetrius, at last year's commencement of Hellenic College and Holy Cross, where I was present, some of you may have been present there, he blew me away. He got up and he started to share about his most recent experience in his archdiocesan district during Holy Week, starting with Palm Sunday. He said, "I have heard from my clergy that several parishes in my archdiocesan district on Palm Sunday and Holy Saturday night had 5 services to accommodate the people, some 4, many 2. He says, that's a beautiful thing that so many people have come. But he says the tragedy is, where are all those people day in and day out, week in and week out throughout the year? He was mourning the fact that we have people out there who are so Eucharistically disconnected, who have no idea in the depths of their heart the treasure of orthodoxy that they have been given. They have no idea of what God is offering them in terms of a connection to the kingdom in their everyday life. And he began to translate that, because he's at Holy Cross and Hellenic College producing clergy and lay leaders, of the need to go out there and to educate the people, to inspire them, to turn them on, to create a Eucharistic mindset. The bottom line in terms of this first principle is that when we are Eucharistically centered, we attract the grace of God. His light begins to be able to shine in us in such a way that people around us see this good work, and they give glory not to us, but to God. This is what the 21st century America needs more than anything. Yeronisa Praxia, here at St. John the Forerunner Monastery in Goldendale, which is only 2 hours away from here, she has told me over the years that I've been here in Portland, working with these beautiful people to grow this church, she says America doesn't need more words about orthodoxy or Christianity. They've heard so many words. They've been inoculated with Christianity light. What they need is transformed lives. What America needs is saints, holy people who attract the grace of God and therefore attract others who want to come to the light. I want to recognize, before I go on to principle number 2, His Eminence, Metropolitan. You can come all the way up here, Your Eminence, and please sit up here. Okay. I said a few words about you, but you can ask someone else about them. They were kind words. Principle number 2. The number one evangelistic tool in the 19 years of this parish has been the witness of the parishioners to others. This ties very closely in what I said about being a Eucharistic community. People may learn about Orthodoxy today through the internet. We hardly have anybody come through these doors today who hasn't been exposed to Orthodoxy through podcasts. They know you, Father Barnabas. They know you, Father Evan. But their first personal and most important impression and experience of Orthodoxy can never be digital. It's through the worship experience that they have when they come, mostly on a Sunday, at Divine Liturgy. And your witness, the collective witness of the community, is what is going to keep them coming back. It's going to seal the deal or not. How many times have I heard, and Father Luke mentioned this last night, from people who come, that they visited other churches and they were not welcome. No one greeted them. No one recognized them. They had no idea what to do. It is really important that we be Christ, that we be the gospel to these people. The fact that these people do not give up, no matter how they've been treated, shows the power of the one holy Catholic and apostolic faith. My own personal testimony, and you mentioned this last night, I never came to Orthodoxy because of Orthodox. I came to Orthodoxy after studying for an entire year through books and getting questions answered by a priest before I ever stepped foot into an Orthodox church and experienced the Divine Liturgy. And when I went to my first Divine Liturgy, it was not in a cathedral. It wasn't even in an old furniture warehouse as nicely decorated as this. It was in a shut-down elementary school with a slanted floor on a stage that was being set up and taken down. But I have to tell you that like the emissaries who were sent by Prince Vladimir, the entirety of the scriptures came to life for me in that Divine Liturgy, Old Testament and New Testament. I felt like I was with the angels before the altar singing, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of Sabaoth." The incense, the bowing, the crossing, all of the senses were brought to life, and I was home. But it was not because of the witness of the people. And yet, today, more than ever, millennials, they don't care about church history. They don't even care sometimes about bricks and mortar. What they care about is an authentic experience, and that is going to be first felt through the witness of the people. The way people pray and the way that they worship expresses more than anything what they believe and who they believe in and what relationship those people have with the living God. What does it say when first-time visitors inquiring about the Orthodox faith come to a service like Orthros, and they do? They look at your website and they see, oh, Orthros starts at 8:45. I don't know what that is, but I'm coming. And when they come and they look around and they see the priest, a chanter, and that's it, what kind of witness does that give them? A bad witness. Now we might say, well, that's Orthros. But when they come at 10 o'clock, and they're there before blessed is the kingdom of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit now and forever. and to the ages of ages. Amen. And they're blown away by that profound statement that touches them in such a way that we take for granted. And they look around and they see the church empty. What can they conclude about what the people believe? There's nothing more evangelical than your witness, than your seriousness, your humble piety in approaching God with faith, with love, and with fear. The way we clergy celebrate is extremely important. Not like a play, like a drama, but humbly, with gratitude, with fear, with attentiveness, with love. The way that the church music is. I can't tell you what an evangelical tool the music is. The orderliness, the cleanliness, the appropriateness of the interior, the architecture, inside, outside, the way that the people are greeted, the way the altar servers serve, the hospitality after the service, the care that the people that are in the church give to the person who comes to visit. Are they important? Are you present? These all matter. It's very important that we understand that people only talk about, they only share with their family, their coworkers, their neighbors, their friends, what they are enthusiastic about. You might ask yourself, why do Greek Orthodox typically not share their faith? They talk about football. They talk about politics, especially during the season of an election. They talk about business and investments. They talk about their hobbies. They talk about food, restaurants, wine, beer, coffee. They talk about all kinds of things enthusiastically. Greeks are famous for gesticulating and talking about things with such enthusiasm, but not their faith. Their faith is not high enough on the hierarchy of their priorities for them to be enthusiastic about. This is something that we need to be instruments of change. We need them to go out to their coworkers, their family, their friends, their neighbors, and be enthusiastic about something that is changing their life and touching them, and that becomes extremely important and central. A leading reason why we in the GOA are not enthusiastic about our faith is because, in general, we are ignorant of it. In order for us to have a powerful witness to the people around us, we have to know our faith. We have to be educated. One of the most important things that leads to a growing and thriving and healthy parish is preaching and teaching and educating our people. Doing it in ways that are life-changing and inspiring. It's not enough anymore to be Greek, to remain Orthodox. We live in an extremely secular society. Our people are exposed to an incredibly attractive marketplace of ideas, of entertainment, of information, of options and choices. Being Greek is not going to be enough to keep people Orthodox. God has to mean something to us. He has to pierce through and touch our lives. Baptisms are down, chrismations are down, weddings are down, but guess what's up? Funerals. We are a church in decline statistically. One of the reasons I believe that this conference touched such a chord, and we sold out even before the early registration period was over, is because you get a sense of this. We know something needs to change in us and in the people around us. I want you to think about this for a second. If God were number one in the lives of our people as Greek Orthodox, and I want you to think about Greek Americans, they're some of the brightest, some of the most highly educated, some of the most hardworking and successful of sects of the population in America. Can you imagine if God were to move up the hierarchy of their priorities and become central in their lives? What would happen in the life of our parishes? No longer would we be in financial crisis. Financial crisis in the parish, in the metropolis, and in the archdiocese is never an administrative problem. We can sit at a meeting and talk about the budget until we're blue in the face. And at every metropolis and every parish, we do this. But until we start looking at the health or the unhealth of our churches and our members, we will not solve this problem. If the hierarchy of priorities among Greek Americans were to move up and it were to become central, stewardship would fund every parish. It would more than fund every parish. Our churches would instantly grow. We would no longer simply be known for festivals and baklava, but we would be known in the community for transformed lives. Our witness is the number one evangelical tool that we can have. And until we become very focused on this and serious about it, we are not going to be able to grow and spread the good news. Principle number 3. Our parish, as I mentioned, from the very beginning, was 100% funded by stewardship. We never, ever considered stewardship a program within the life of the parish. We considered it the blood and the heart and the soul of the Christian life. Everything that we are and everything that we do as Orthodox Christians is stewardship. Becoming a Christian steward means that everything is a blessing from God and we give back. In the parish, this means that stewards are engaged. They're invested in their time. They're invested in understanding their gifts and their talents and giving them back in the life of the parish, in ministry, as an expression of thanksgiving to God. Because people get so invested in giving their time and their talents, the money begins to flow because it's an expression of what my values and priorities are. If you look at your check register or you look at your credit card bill, beyond the absolute necessary expenditures, you would see what you value. Because where your money goes, that shows you where your heart is. And when we look at the average pledge monetarily in our Greek Orthodox parishes, it is embarrassing what a small percentage that is compared to what our people make. And when we look at that check register or that credit card receipt and we see what they do value, it's not the church, unfortunately. We need to feel so indebted to God, so aware and grateful for what He has done in our lives, to see the image of God in our neighbor and feel indebted even to them. St. Paisios of the Holy Mountain talks about philotimo, this great and humble indebtedness to God and to our neighbor. This is at the heart of Christian stewardship. When we feel this holy philotimo, we bemoan the fact that we cannot give enough. Not, do I have to give? Principle number 4. Our parish, from the very beginning, when we're talking about education and catechism focused on the parents and the adults, not the children. And don't get me wrong. From the very beginning, we had a Sunday school. From the very beginning, we had all of the different youth ministries. But we considered those youth ministries a partnership with the parents. We've always considered the parents to be the main catechists, youth directors of their children. If we teach the parents, they will be able to teach the children. Now, we know that families today are busier than ever. They have more choices, more information coming at them, more opportunities for entertainment, more competition for their time, their minds, their souls, their hearts. And we know that we're also losing way too many youth before they leave our homes and go off either to college or to join the workforce. We're making the wrong assumption that because they are Greek or because they were raised in our homes and we are Orthodox, that they themselves will remain Orthodox. We use the term convert for people who, as adults, have changed their faith tradition and become Orthodox. But I would strongly suggest that you think about the word convert and what it means to intentionally embrace Orthodoxy and make it your own when it comes to your own children. Do not assume that because they were baptized as infants and chrismated and hung around and grew up in the church and served in the altar and were a part of Goya and danced and played basketball, that makes them Orthodox. The statistics bear otherwise. Not enough emphasis is placed on our responsibility before God as parents to make our home the home church, to make sure that the life that we're living in home parallels the life of the church, that it is our primary responsibility to witness to them, to evangelize them, to influence them, to value and show what is important in our everyday life, not in a hypocritical way, in an authentic way, and pass down the baton of faith to them. The name tradition in Greek, paradosis, literally means to hand down, like in a relay race. We do not want to drop the baton in the exchange between us and our children. We know that the world is competing for their hearts, their minds, and their souls. That the world is spending billions of dollars to lure them through worldly success, power, status, pleasure. It is bent on getting them to make choices away from the church. What do we have to compete with this? It seems daunting when you think about the machine of marketing and influence trying to lure our children away. We have, as their parents, these children at the most foundational, impressionable time of their life. They are hardwired by God to innately respect you as their parents. They're watching you. Statistics overwhelmingly say that what you value, they will end up valuing. What you make a priority in your life, they most likely will adopt. So your witness, not just to the community by being parts of the church, but in your home to your children, is all important. What you have to compete with the world is the witness of your own life. And it is powerful. Doesn't matter what quality Sunday school program you have, how dynamic your youth director is, no offense, Johanna, or Christine if she's here. You have more power and influence in your children's lives for their conversion, to make orthodoxy their own for the rest of their life, to equip them so that when they go out to college, when they go out in the workforce, when they're surrounded by this marketplace of tantalizing ideas and ideologies and philosophies, that they have already converted, already made orthodoxy their own. One thing that I want to say practically is that the dinner table is probably your most powerful tool. If you commit to it, if you hold your children accountable to be home and be there, it becomes your own personal Mars Hill. You remember the Apostle Paul, who went and he met with the philosophers. And he met them where they were at. And he saw a statue to the unknown God. And he contextualized that for them. And he brought the gospel to them in a way that was palatable to them. The Dorotheos of Athens and Dionysios the Areopagite were two who were there present that day. One became the first bishop of Athens, and the other became the second, and they both were present even at the Dormition of the Theotokos. This is how profound their conversion was. Every night at dinner, your children are going to come, and they are going to share with you all of the challenges that the billion-dollar worldly machine has brought to them. You have the chance to meet them where they're at and to take the Orthodox faith and contextualize it for them, to listen to them and to give a cogent word from the church to them every single day. Very powerful. It's important to realize that in this parish, and I say this humbly, I was thinking about this with Presbytera, where both parents are Orthodox and together in this parish, I do not think that we have lost one child who has grown up and left the home to the world. They've all remained in the Orthodox Church. And last year, at Holy Cross and Hellenic College, from this parish, we had 5 students. 2 graduated, and now this year we have 4 students. So hopefully, by keeping this ever present, we can not only keep the children, but send them out in powerful ways to be a part of the next generation of leaders in this effort to grow the good news. Principle number 5. From the very beginning, our vision has been to foster another parish before we reach 200 families. Now keep in mind that practically speaking, this vision, if we keep it in front of the people and keep it ever present, keeps within the membership the mindset that we are a perpetual mission parish. That it's not just about us, but it's about us planting another parish, being an impetus to plant another parish, always growing the Orthodox Church, always making sure that we are trying to attract new members. Most of you, when you think of a parish that is 200 families or less, you think about that parish as a small parish. I'm strongly suggesting that you think otherwise when you consider a different model of planting and growing and founding a parish. Think about this parish. 130 families, almost 2 full-time priests, a full-time parish administrator. At Vespers every Saturday, we get 40 to 50 people. At a weekday feast day, we get 90 to 100 people. The clergy every single week of the year hear 40 or more confessions. We get 250 or more people every Sunday We have over 110 children in the Sunday school and the youth programs. And this is a parish of 130 families that supports a budget, an operating budget on stewardship of over $500,000. Imagine now 70 more families coming into the life of this parish. You cannot, with this model, grow to that degree without losing something vital and essential about the fullness of orthodoxy in the expression of the life of the parish. I'm not judging parishes that are larger. I'm simply saying that the size of the parish is related to the degree of spiritual health possible in the life of that parish, simply because you end up with too great a ratio of parishioner to priest, and you cannot fully express orthodoxy as we are supposed to, because you lose access to the priest. You lose access to the possibility of the fullness of the sacramental life. The parishioners themselves no longer feel that they're a part of the core, and they become a part of the periphery. One of the things that we have said, it's sort of a slogan in our parish, is that we want to strengthen the core and reduce the periphery. I need to work on that a little bit myself, but and every parish has to keep working on that. But you cannot do that unless your people feel that they are needed, that they are connected, that they have a place. Not only that, but if you're trying to grow the Orthodox faith, can we appreciably in the United States grow the Orthodox faith by growing already large parishes larger? I would say to you, no. Yes, they can grow a little bit, but they cannot appreciably grow. What are you going to do? When a parish reaches 80% of its facilities, it appreciably stops growing. Are we going to tear down our old barns and build new barns in order to add people? I don't think so. The only way to grow orthodoxy appreciably in the United States is to plant new parishes under a different model, maybe with some of these principles, and keep doing that in these urban areas where the fullness of orthodoxy can be expressed. I would say that when people come in, especially from outside of any ethnic connection to orthodoxy, they want access to the priest. They want to be mentored. They want to be able to feel an integral part of that parish. They feel like they have something to offer, and they want connectivity and authenticity in the life of the community. So, my dear brothers and sisters, again, I feel very uncomfortable and intimidated to share some of these things, but at the same time, I even forgot to move my PowerPoint along. I just want to end with one last thing related to planting new parishes. There's a myth that when you go into an urban center, and this myth is held onto by the existing parishes, priest and laity alike, that if we add another parish to this city, it is going to hurt us. It's going to take away our membership. It's going to take away our money. It's going to take away our influence. And this is simply not true. We have the city of Phoenix, the city of San Diego, the city of Sacramento, the city of Portland, the city of Seattle, as case studies, if you want to come to me afterwards and ask me. In every one of those cities, multiple parishes sometimes have been added. And in every single case, it has made the existing parish healthier. They have not lost numbers in stewardship. Maybe it even helped to inspire and encourage them to grow and look deeply at themselves. And at the same time, Orthodoxy has appreciably grown because the other newly added parishes become full-fledged new Eucharistic communities where they didn't exist before. My dear brothers and sisters, we need, with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength, to love God and love our neighbor ourselves and enter into a relationship with God so that we understand just how much He burns in love for every one of the human beings He has created. How can we not, by entering into that relationship with God, ourselves burn in our hearts in love and feel an urgency to reach out with the good news of salvation so that these people that God died for can come to the saving knowledge of truth and enter into the one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church, just as we have been blessed to enter into it. Thank you very, very much for your attentiveness.